Hi guys, Ricky Pope here, and today on the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, I'm joined by the great BB Nate, co-host of the Tatooine Sons podcast, to give our review of The Batman, plus scripture and nerdy news as always, and we'll get to all of that right after this. 2022 is flying by so fast, and I just reviewed my goals for the year. It's not too late to set some effective goals for 2022 for yourself. And the Goal Process 101 ebook helps you do just that. With a straightforward process and practical exercises, you'll be guided to set the right goals for you and set out a plan to achieve them. Get your copy of the Goal Process 101 ebook by going to goalprocess101.com. Use CNU2022 at checkout to save 10%. Now, back to the show. Let's get started with some scripture. In the new Batman film, Robert Pattinson uses the line, "I'm vengeance," when people ask who Batman is. And at the end of the film, they flip the script a bit and make it clear that he is hope. It makes me think of these two sets of scriptures that I'm about to read. Let's start with Romans. And Romans makes it clear that we are not to take vengeance into our own hands. Romans 12:19. Beloved, do not avenge yourselves, but rather give place to wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. And in Isaiah, scripture says that we are to lift others up and give them hope. Isaiah 35:3-7. Strengthen the feeble hands, steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong, do not fear. Your God will come. He will come with vengeance. With divine retribution, he will come to save you. Then will the eyes of the blind be opened and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert. The burning sand will become a pool, the thirsty ground bubbling springs. In the haunts where jackals once lay, grass and reeds and papyrus will grow. Now let's get to some nerdy news. First, no surprises here, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness tops the box office in its opening weekend with over $187 million domestic and over $450 million worldwide. The biggest opening box office take so far in 2022, but still trailing behind Spider-Man No Way Home's opening weekend of over $260 million domestic. In Doctor Who news, Ncuti Gatwa is set to be the 14th Doctor in the long-running time travel adventure Doctor Who. With Jodie Whittaker's final episode as the Doctor coming this fall, we're hopeful to see a regeneration scene and the first reveal of Ncuti Gatwa this year. Russell T Davies will be taking the helm as showrunner in 2023, and Doctor Who celebrates its 60th anniversary that year. Expect to see a big reunion episode, hopefully bringing David Tennant back, and maybe for the first time, the return of Chris Eccleston. Either way, 2023 should be a fun year for Doctor Who fans. Last week on Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you, Disney Plus released the official trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi, a 6-episode miniseries that follows Obi-Wan and his struggles to keep himself and young Luke Skywalker hidden from the Empire and Luke's father, Darth Vader. The trailer gives us only a few story points, but the most poignant one is when Obi-Wan says that Luke needs to be trained and that Uncle Owen wants him to have no part of Luke's life. I'm expecting we will dive deeper into some of the inner turmoil that Obi-Wan feels for the loss of Anakin to the dark side. Releasing May 27th on Disney Plus. I can't wait. It's time for our review of The Batman. I am joined this week by the great BB Nate Jesse, one of the co-hosts of the Tatooine Sons podcast. Nate is a huge Batman fan and recently interviewed Michael Uslan, the executive producer of every Batman production since 1989. Nate and I give our impressions of the film, what we liked, what we did not like, and where we hope the next film will go. Let's jump right in. BB Nate, welcome to the Christian Nerds Unite podcast. It is so great to have you with us today. The great Nathan Jesse.
I'm happy to be here. Always excited to talk about this.
Awesome. Well, and as I said earlier in the show, we are going to be talking about The Batman. This is going to be our spoilery review. So if you have not seen it yet, just be warned, we are going to be in spoiler territory. For those who aren't aware, you can now see that on streaming services. And for those who have HBO Max, it's free right now. So go check that out. If you haven't watched it yet, just hit pause, go watch it really well, I mean, it's 3 hours, but go watch it and then come back fast-ish and then listen to our review. So let's just kick this off with just an overview of what you thought of the film in general. What were your initial thoughts of seeing the film the first time?
I was just shock. If I was to sum it up in one word, shock is a good word for it. I saw it at the preview night, the one that happened a few days before it came out in IMAX, and I went to that, and I was all dressed up. I was full suit and tie. I was going as Court of Owls, but they didn't allow the masks, so I was just in suit and tie and everything, dressed up for the premiere, and I finished that movie just speechless. I couldn't speak for like 5 minutes afterwards. The credits were rolling and they were trying to get anything out of me, and I was just sitting there laughing. I'm like, that was the greatest Batman movie I have seen. And I was super excited for this. I had the highest expectations for this movie. I dove into this and the behind the scenes. I read the book before it. I read everything I could about this movie. And so I had my own headcanon going into this, which is not a good thing to have. And so I was just had the highest expectations, and they were exceeded after this movie was done. I could not believe what Matt Reeves did with this story. I could not believe the cinematography looked like panels from a comic. I rewatched it on HBO Max a few days ago, and I was just like, this whole movie could be transferred into a graphic novel and it would work. Every shot is beautiful. And then the score by Michael Giacchino, everything about it was just so good. I was in the car, and it's an hour drive from the IMAX theater back home. So we were talking about it the whole time. And I was like, I've been thinking this whole drive, and I can't find one problem I had with this movie. And I was just in shock. I loved it so much.
That's awesome. I absolutely loved this film. I thought it was really gorgeous. You mentioned the music. The score is beautiful. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the musical hits that they have in the show, which I thought were rather interesting along the way. And you might have thoughts about those as we go. But I really thought it was beautifully done. It was so well done. And I'm a bit of a cinema snob, especially when it comes to visual effects and CGI. And I really thought this movie was done so well. The CGI blended in so well that it didn't pull me out of the film, which honestly has been an issue for a lot of the DC movies for me. A lot of the DC movies, the special effects and the CGI have pulled me out of the moment because they just didn't feel like they were finished. And this just did. It felt like everything was done. Now, there was some of this, there was some of the thing that a lot of people complain about, movies being so dark that you can't actually see the action.
Yeah.
There was some of that going on, and but it fit the theme. It fit the
really
movie.
did.
So I really did like the way it was put together. I thought it told a great story. It was super, super creepy. And honestly, when I watched it, film noir and horror are the two genres that I thought this felt like it fit well in. It definitely had some film noir feel. It definitely had some horror, and that dark police procedural feel that you get with a show like Criminal Minds, or more so movie wise, something like a movie like Seven, which I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Oh, I've seen it a couple times.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
I absolutely love that movie. David
Being
Fincher's
at your
a
age,
genius with
I'm
that.
not sure I would have let you watch Seven.
So we were sitting there one day and we were just like, my dad was like, we have nothing else to do. I know I really love this movie. Let's see. But if it gets too much, we're going to back off a little bit, because it is a very intense
Super intense movie.
But
yes.
I watched it and I loved it. I love the detective stuff with it.
Yes.
It was slow and everything. And that transferred into this movie perfectly. When I heard that Matt Reeves was taking inspiration from that movie and Zodiac, which I've yet to see Zodiac, I was super excited to hear that, because I knew that was going to play into Batman perfectly with some of the stuff I've read in the comics. So I was super excited.
Absolutely. That is a great, if somebody said, hey, we're going to make a comic book movie, but we're going to set it in a world that looks like Seven, that's what the Batman is.
Yes.
And it's done so well. So Matt Reeves and his choice for the Battison.
Yeah.
What was your initial thoughts when Pattinson was chosen to be the new Batman? Did you know much about him? Had you seen much of his acting prowess?
I hadn't seen any of his acting before I heard that he was cast. I didn't watch the Twilight movies, and I still haven't. I take pride in that. I'm going to stay away from those for as long as I can. But I did not hear anything about it. And I was talking with my brother and my dad a little bit ago, and I was like, I didn't have Batman that I grew up with. The Dark Knight movies were kind of too much for me in the age of my growing up, and they were too dark, and so I didn't watch them at that point. So I was actually
I was doing some calculations there, and I was thinking, you were like, either when Batman Begins came out, you were
I wasn't even born yet. I was like
born
2 months away. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
2 months away from like being born. So
this is your first. This is your first Batman that is when you're really old enough to grab a hold of, this is in the theaters and this is my Batman.
Exactly. I mean, I watched Batman v Superman, but I was at that point, I was one of those people that was like, DC can't do any good things. Marvel's the best. It'll always be the best. I was one of those people, and you wouldn't know that now, but I was. And so, I mean, I grew up with, that's why Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man. The nostalgia of growing up with him, I'll always love that. Yeah. But I didn't have that. And so I heard that he got casted, and I heard all of these overly negative reactions to it, and I was like, I'm excited to see what he does as a young Batman. I was excited. And then I remember we were standing in the movie theater in Colorado when the screen test images came out for his suit, and I had it on my phone, and I looked at it, and I grabbed Sam's shirt and I pulled him over, and I was like, this is going to be the best Batman yet. And that was 3 years ago. I'm like, this is the best suit we've gotten for this. I loved the collar. It worked so well. It reminded me of Batman 666 from Damian Wayne, the Earth 666. I loved it. I was so excited to see that. And so I've been a huge supporter of Robert Pattinson in this storyline and in this universe ever since I heard of it. And I didn't ever get the negativity, but a lot of that negativity stopped after the movie came out, strangely enough. I've even heard a few people say, I apologize for everything I said. I was wrong. You did an amazing job. And so I was super excited to see the positive reactions afterwards.
Fanboys are absolutely the worst about any character ever. There is some weird belief that actors can't be anything other than what they were in their last movie. And
Exactly.
I don't understand that. I've always said I want to see what they're going to do with it. And I'm old enough to have seen Keaton in the theaters.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I was there when Keaton showed up. Now, I didn't go to some of the other ones because they were just horrible. But I've seen this, I wanted to see, okay, I'm going to give him a chance. And some of them deserved a chance and some of them didn't. But I always liked the take, it was, we're going to put our own little spin on who Batman is this time. So, when we had Ben Affleck, we had a 40-year-old or 45 or 50-year-old Batman. This is not the Batman that we saw in the Dark Knight trilogy. It just wasn't. It wasn't ever going to be, and it couldn't be.
No.
So when Pattinson came, was called, I was like, okay, I'm willing to give him a shot. I made all of the sparkly Batman jokes just because they're fun.
They are, yeah.
and when I make those jokes, they're tongue in cheek, and I really don't care. I want to see what he's going to do. And even like a lot of people gave Ben Affleck lots of flack. Affleck about lots of flack about being Batman, but I really enjoyed his portrayal. And I would have loved to see more of it.
Oh, definitely.
So, when Pattinson came out, and I was like, okay, let's see what this looks like. I did have the idea that this is definitely going to be a younger Bruce Wayne. This is going to be a moodier, broodier kind of movie. And, they didn't disappoint there. We definitely had emo Bruce Wayne. And any joke about this is going to be an emo Bruce Wayne definitely came true.
It did.
But it came true in a really, really good way. It was so well done, and it fit the character so well. And so let's talk about that. Now, I know I've heard your comments, but I'm going to have you share it with our audience. There's the question of, who is the Mask? Is the Mask Bruce Wayne, or is the Mask Batman? And what's your take on that, especially in this film?
In this film, surely Bruce Wayne is the Mask. He doesn't even have Bruce Wayne developed yet, and I believe that in the comics as well. I think that Batman's who he was always truly meant to be, and Bruce Wayne is just somebody he has to be because he has to keep up appearances. And so, I mean, you see that in Batman Year One especially. And so in this film, it really worked well since Year One was a huge influence for how they were going to be treating Bruce Wayne. Even in Year One, he was a recluse. He stayed in his mansion. He did not go out at all. He was just really emo, like this movie was. And so if you read the comics or even watched the movie Batman Year One, you'd understand that was what this was supposed to be. And it worked super well for this character. And even at the point where he was going to the funeral, he just jumped into it. He absolutely jumped straight into the Bruce Wayne role because he understood that was going to allow him to track Riddler better. And so that works super well with this movie. I think Robert Pattinson did an amazing job portraying this version of Bruce Wayne because that helped with the story. It helped with Batman. You could tell he was his own with Batman. And even at that point, when Riddler pointed that out, he pointed out that Batman's who he truly is. And he knows that got Batman to the point where he's like, okay, maybe I need to back off from this persona for now, create another one, because this is getting dangerous at this point. And so that's what we see at the end with the amazing final monologue, which I absolutely love that whole scene. I think that it worked well with developing what this next Bruce Wayne is going to be in the Batman 2, which I hope we get an announcement for tonight. But I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I'm excited to see Bruce Wayne develop even more at this point.
Absolutely. I totally with you on that. In this movie, definitely the mask is Bruce Wayne. And I'm not even sure there's a mask. It's as though he is Batman all the time. He's just Batman with a cowl and Batman without a cowl.
Exactly.
There really is no Bruce Wayne, and there's just this guy that doesn't wear a cowl sometimes. But that whole idea, I think, is interesting. It makes the character interesting when you get to say, the secret identity isn't really his identity at all.
Yeah.
And this idea of loss and grief, and that is a theme that I see throughout this film.
Yes.
Loss and grief. I love the fact that this is not the titular origin story where we see a young Bruce Wayne's parents killed in the street, and we see him become Batman because of it. But the threads of that story are weaved from beginning to end in this film. And I want to get into some of that because, we see now you mentioned you read the pre-novel. I'm not sure exactly what to call it. It's not a novel of the movie. It's kind of a prequel, but not exactly.
It is a prequel. That's how they described it. It's called Before the Batman. So that's really all it was. It was a prequel, and it told the story of Bruce Wayne very well without even touching on the Crime Alley story. They never touched on that even in the prequel novel. They wanted to keep that out of there. They started the prologue was before it, where they were talking with Thomas Wayne announcing his candidacy, which we see in the movie as well. And talking about noticing this boy staring at him. This is from Bruce's point of view, and he's like this boy with very thin glasses, very thin looking, just staring at him. And I was like, no way! They brought in Riddler all the way at that point, and then we see that in the movie too. So throughout the whole thing, it was fantastic. The book actually added a lot to this movie. Even just in a couple shots you saw it that were good references to the book, especially with the Batmobile, since most of the book was about the Batmobile and him building it, but it also added more to Riddler's backstory because apparently Riddler and Bruce met before that with the Batmobile. So it was super interesting to read that book. Well,
and along with that, I told the audience earlier that you're part of the Tatooine Sons family. You, your brother, and your father, who do a podcast together, and you guys talk a lot of family stuff a lot of times. And this whole story about grief and suffering, the loss of fathers, the loss of parents is a big issue throughout this whole film. I mean, it's alluded to, and in the book, I think it's made plain that the Riddler's, he's an orphan. We have Catwoman talking about she picks up strays, which is an implication that she's taking care of other people that no longer have family. Batman has lost his parents, and Alfred is a surrogate father of sorts. So we've got all this fatherhood or loss of fatherhood, and then we've got the mayor and his son in the film. When the mayor dies, we see the son like throughout the whole movie. We keep getting close-ups of the son in his face, and the loss and Bruce connecting. And they allude to it seems to allude visually to Bruce connecting with the son in some way because of the loss of parent. And I think that is such a significant part of this movie, this idea of loss, that it even bleeds over into the music. Now, I know you love the score.
Oh, yes.
But there are a couple of specific songs in the film that kind of still go along with that same theme. You know, we start and end the movie with a Nirvana song, you know, where we've got a lead singer that's so depressed that he takes his own life at one point. Then we have the Ave Maria is throughout the film, weaved in and out, and that is this song of, you know, this religious song that has this haunting melody, and it's presented in such a haunting way, but oftentimes it is associated with funerals. And then at the moment when Bruce realizes that he is the next target. So this is, it's tied in with the funeral. It's tied in with the young boy who's lost his father. It's tied in with Bruce realizing that he was the next target, but he's not going to be the victim. It's going to be his surrogate father, Alfred. We actually hear a tune from this Requiem that was actually written for the composer's father, for his death. It wasn't performed at his death, but everyone suspects it was written in honor of his father that had passed away. So there's all of these little threads all weaved in that are even deeper and deeper. So that's kind of one of those Easter eggs that if you didn't know the tune, you would never know the story that this was a funeral requiem written in honor of the composer's father, happening while the funeral of a young boy's father is happening, and as Batman is trying to save his surrogate father, Alfred, from dying in an explosion. So there's just all these little Easter egg layers. Speaking of Easter eggs, there are tons in this movie. And obviously this one's my favorite one because it's so hard to see. But was there one Easter egg in this film that you were like, this is kind of my favorite thing that they buried in the film?
This wasn't even confirmed, but I freaked out about it when I first saw it, and I'm still the only one that's really, I don't know, realized this or has a theory about it. But the man that is talking about the safety net at the funeral to Bruce Wayne has a lot of burns on his face. Strangely, they're noticeable, and he's not the same guy at the end, which I've seen a lot of people say he is not the same guy at the end that says, I'm vengeance to Batman. But when I first saw him, my gut reaction was that this was Garfield Lynn's Firefly. And I am still a strong believer in that theory, and it would be an amazing Easter egg to put that in this early on and have a different story for him, where it was his daughter that was lost that drove him to crime in a fire. And honestly, I would love to see that. And that has been my favorite. Like, I was rewatching it a few days ago and I saw that and I was still super excited to see that. And I always look forward to that scene to see if I can pick up on something else that could be a reference to Firefly, because I've always thought that character was underrated.
So for those in our audience who may not know who that character is, tell us just real briefly who Firefly is. And we're not talking about brown coats here.
No, he's a pyromaniac is a great way to put it, but he was covered in third-degree burns from a building that he was in being burnt down. He is kind of a person who thinks that Gotham hasn't done anything good for him and the city's failing everyone, so he goes and he burns down a lot of places. In some versions, he was an ex-firefighter, so that I wonder if they'll go there, but I think in this story, he's just going to be a regular civilian where he lost his daughter in a fire, where and he was also in that building but was able to get out, and that trauma could drive him to becoming Firefly, which I'd love to see. But we are having Firefly in the Batgirl movie as the main villain, so I don't know if they'll try to have two versions close to the same time, but we'll see. I don't know. I think that they're different enough to be a good way to go.
Now, are there rumors that Pattinson is going to cross over? I think I heard rumors that Gordon is going to cross over.
I don't think we'll have the Batman universe crossover into Batgirl, because the Batgirl is in the main DCEU continuity. We will see J.K. Simmons Gordon in Batgirl.
That's the Gordon. Okay, that's right.
But we will not be seeing Jeffrey Wright's Gordon, which, again, I love Jeffrey Wright's Gordon.
Okay, but I heard something about Gordon crossing over, and I wasn't confused. I was a little confused, and I hadn't read through all of the notes to figure that out yet. Okay, so it's the main DCEU. Well,
it is.
So speaking of the DCEU, this definitely feels like it's outside of the DCEU. I really hope they keep it that way.
I think that Matt Reeves will. He was in an interview a couple months ago, and he was asked, do you want to bring in Superman and Wonder Woman and all this stuff, your own version of them into this universe? And he said no. He's like, I don't want any of those superpowered people in this universe. He wants it to be grounded. He wants it to be realistic, and he wants it to be this Batverse, because he's adding shows to HBO Max. The Arkham Asylum and the Penguin show are already confirmed to be in the making. And he's wanting this to really just focus on the Bat family and Batman as a whole in this universe and not bring in the Justice League. I don't think, and when he was asked before the movie was come out if the DCEU is going to cross over into this, he was just very adamant in that it wasn't going to in this movie, and I don't think it ever will. I don't even think that he'll allow the Joker universe to cross over into this movie, because he wants this to be his own thing, and I like that. He wants to create his own universe, and I respect that more than him just trying to grab some famous actors like Michael Keaton or Henry Cavill as Superman and just get a quick buck. He wants to make this his own creative stake in his filmography, I guess.
Well, and honestly, I think that is the best thing they can do. The one thing that I think that DC has done well is standalone movies. When they've tried, I think they lack a driving force like Feige to create a cohesive universe. They've got a corporate mechanism that tried to create a combination, and it didn't work as well. So I think the best thing that they can do is create standalone movies and move forward with them. Because every time they do, they're fantastic. When they try to do one crazy crossover mess, it just gets messy, and it feels like too many fingers in the pot. So I'm hoping they don't do that. I'm with you. I don't think they will. If Matt Reeves can stand up to the corporates that are, the money is there. The proof is there. So if he can stand up to the corporates, then we'll get to see this, be something significant, as significant as the Dark Knight trilogy, and maybe better. I am hoping it's better.
I do think that with the leadership change that has started to happen now at Warner Media and Warner Brothers, even with the Discovery merger, we're going to be seeing a lot more of DC coming into its own. There was a quote today by the CEO of what is now Warner Discovery saying, this is his exact quote. He said, let's just say we're going to be focusing on making DC a larger universe now. And so he's planning on making DC, and he was in even interviews before the Discovery Warner Brothers merger was even finalized. And he said, they were asked, what are you going to focus on now that you will be working with Warner Brothers? He said, DC. He said, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, those are the things that bring in money, and I want to make them the best they can be. So I think that now we see that Matt Reeves is doing so well with this universe, very well. The box office intake was crazy for this movie. Yes. So I think we'll be seeing a lot more creative driven movies, and the directors can actually do what they want finally with the movie, unlike what happened with Justice League back in 2017.
Yes. I am right there with you. I can't wait to see what they come up with. I think it will be good. So where do you think this is going? What do you think the future is for the Batman, the new franchise?
I think that in the next couple of movies, which we're supposedly getting a trilogy, at least they're hoping to make it just a trilogy for now.
The money is there.
And having other shows. It is. It really is. And I think that we'll be getting an announcement soon for the next movie and some news for the Arkham Asylum and Penguin show. We've already gotten the Penguin show confirmed. They've already announced that fully. Arkham Asylum is basically confirmed by now. Matt Reeves has talked about it before, but we're sitting here wondering who the main villain or the main drive behind this next couple movies is going to be. It's okay to not explain that with the Batman because this is a movie introducing us to a whole new universe. That's difficult to do. But now we got to know where we're going to be going with this series, what we're going to be doing. I think that the one thing that Robert Pattinson has talked about a lot, that Matt Reeves has talked about a lot, that even Paul Dano has talked about a lot, is the Court of Owls being a huge deal in this universe. They set it up perfectly in this movie, and a lot of people were like, it's not going to work out now that we know who killed Bruce Wayne's parents, but we really don't. Alfred isn't too sure of it. Carmine isn't too sure of it. And it's a case that Bruce hasn't cracked, which is a perfect setup for the Court of Owls being the main villains in at least this next movie. I think that we could see the reference of Catwoman at the end, the power grab, being a big deal for the court. They lost whoever they had in the mayor's office, and now they don't even have Carmine under the thumb, and Penguin's now up there, and then this good-hearted mayor is now up there. So they're losing control of Gotham very fast, and that's not something that they would want. So I think that they're going to be trying their best to remove Batman from this equation because he's making life very difficult for them. And I think that we will definitely see Barry Keoghan's Joker soon enough, at least in this next movie or in the third movie. Like I said before, I think we get more of a tease, more of a reveal in this next movie, maybe a couple more scenes with Barry Keoghan's Joker setting up him being the main villain of the third movie. And I do think we see either Jason Todd or Dick Grayson in Death in the Family for the third movie. I think that would
really
make the most sense because Robert Pattinson said that if he's going to have a Robin, he wants it to be the 12 or 13-year-old version and not like what we got in Batman and Robin or what we even got in Dark Knight Rises with Blake. I think that he really wants to, he said he would love to do a Death in the Family style run. And I think that this Joker lends himself to doing that run very well, doing that storyline very well. And I think having Jason Todd be the first Robin or whatever Robin just decides to be killed first, is going to lend itself to a better, more emotional story for Batman at the end of this trilogy, the final, the choice of stepping over that line or holding back and being true to what he promised in this end of the first movie, at the end of this, being the symbol of hope and not of vengeance. I think that'd be a good arc for Matt Reeves to complete towards the end of this whole series, and maybe another trilogy beyond that if they decide to do that. But I hope that Matt Reeves learns that if he needs to end it at 3 movies, he can and he should. Unlike The Dark Knight Rises, where it was still up in the air at the end of that, if it was going to be continued or not. I think he knows that if it's not doing too well at the point where it should end in the third movie, I think he should end it there. But I think that he's going to do an amazing job setting up whatever is going to happen. And I know that Joker is going to be in this. And Barry Keoghan did an amazing job in the deleted scene that we got, which is practically canon now since it was given to us through the canon website.
Yes.
So I have a feeling that it's going to be very important to the rest of the storyline.
And if you haven't watched that deleted scene, it's worth your time to go find that and watch it. It's an interesting idea, and it is actually one of the extras that's available on HBO Max. So,
okay.
So you can watch it there. But so I'm right there with you. I think the Court of Owls definitely makes sense because of how much city control and the Gotham Project and how big a deal renewal was in this film, but it's not really, renewal is revealed as being this massive money grab by everybody, but it doesn't get fixed in this film. No, that's not resolved. It's just aware now. So that sets up this idea of, the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls, I think, lends itself well to the detective Batman more than the fighting superpowered bad guys Batman. For sure. It's a good fit. I'm definitely there with you. And then obviously we did get a tease of the Joker. We've got the removed scene that makes it super clear. And then we've got the little tease that's in the film of the Joker. But we also have one other tease that's maybe an Easter egg and maybe not, and it's not explained. But we do have Batman giving himself an injection of some sort of green liquid that many are saying is venom, which could play into Bane showing up at some point. A real Bane this time. Hopefully he doesn't look like the Bane from the 90s. And hopefully he doesn't look like the Bane from the 2000s either. And we get an actual Bane this time.
I hope so. That would follow the Batman Venom storyline from the comics very well. It would work super well for the fact of there is the storyline where Batman is creating Venom for himself because he understands that this is becoming too much for him. He's having to keep moving, not sleeping, losing strength and all this stuff. So he creates Venom and eventually gets addicted to using it to the point where it just is becoming a problem. Alfred eventually stops him from using it, and that's how Bane starts to learn about it when he gets out of the prison. So I think that we might be seeing that in this movie. I'm super excited to see that in this trilogy.
Yeah, I think it could definitely be a thing. And you can tell your dad to come in if he would like to say hi. He can't hear us though.
He can't, but he just sent me.
Is there a problem? Is the house on fire?
There's news that we can reveal here.
Oh, hey, great. What's the news?
CinemaCon, the Warner Brothers presentation just revealed that a sequel to The Batman is officially underway.
Awesome. Hey.
Yes, not surprised.
I would love to say you heard it here first, but we're recording this like 2 weeks before I'm going to get to show it, so we'll have already mentioned it.
Well,
that's
first
great.
You'll hear about it, but I'm super excited. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either. I love to think that cinema is made because people love art. But let's be honest, the money was there, so that there was going to be a sequel.
100%. I think that the Warner Brothers presentation just started too, just a few minutes ago. So there's more that they could reveal about the Batman. So
we'll hear who the next bad guy is.
I don't know. Matt Reeves is
That's
there.
awfully early.
Matt Reeves, it is. It really is early. So I hope we hear something though. But I think that Matt Reeves will keep that under lock and key for a little bit. I'm just excited to hear that we're going to be having a sequel.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm super excited to see what the rest of the presentation will hold.
I am too. I will definitely be watching it on a replay after we're done here. But anything else that you want to share about your experience with the movie? Or I know recently you had a great interview with one of the producers who's worked on every Batman movie since the Keaton film.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would like to share that you're like, this is something that you feel is strongly about Batman in this franchise?
I think this franchise, and this was mentioned in the interview, this franchise is perfectly portraying Batman in who he is. A lot of the other movies have hit on this, maybe hinted to it, but this one's going full out. Batman's about hope. He is not about beating up on criminals or anything. And the ending monologue says that, and it's going full out with the hope. And that's why I have always appreciated Batman. That's why I got into the Batman comics, because of how much we can relate to him more than any other superhero, because he is completely human to us, and he deals with the same broken bones and scratches and cuts that we deal with. And so I think that seeing that in this trilogy and letting Matt Reeves tell that story, the amazing job that Matt Reeves did with the Planet of the Apes movies that he worked on, told really human stories and hopeful stories towards the end, bittersweet stories in the end. And so I'm super excited to see how he portrays hope, and I've always loved that is who Batman is, and they're going that direction fully with this movie, because we haven't seen that touched on all that much before.
I'm right there with you. I love the idea that we start this movie with Batman being the Shadow, and he is vengeance. He doesn't ever say I'm Batman. He says I am vengeance. But then when those words are repeated back to him at the end of the film, it finally clicks that this something has to change. And that's where we finally see that hope that you're talking about come out clearly.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think we should wrap it up there. I know we could talk for another hour and a half on this, but
absolutely.
But I don't know that the audience would listen. But Nate, it has been fantastic getting to talk with you today. I love talking Batman with you. Next time a Batman movie comes out, I definitely want to have you back, and we'll do our review together again. But before I let you go, let us know where we can catch up with you and Tatooine Sons.
Well, you can find Tatooine Sons on any podcasting service that you listen to. You can also find us on Facebook at Tatooine Sons SONS. Join the discussion group that we have on there, and also find us on Twitter, where we are the most active. Again, Tatooine Sons SONS.
And at TatooineSons.com, if you can't find any of those other links, I'm sure there are links to everything at their website. Nate, it's been great having you on the show today.
Oh, I appreciate it. It's been so much fun. I always love talking about Batman.
I hope you can tell Nate and I had a great time exploring the world of the Batman. And hearing that a sequel was greenlit literally while we were recording was a nice touch. If you don't already listen to Tatooine Sons, the podcast, you should go subscribe right now. It's a great podcast, and they talk about a lot more than just Star Wars. And they are firm believers in Jesus Christ. A great group of guys over there. And I'll put links down in the show notes below. Well, that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click, follow, click the bell, whatever those links are, click all those links. That way you can keep up with us, and you'll get notified every time we put out new content. And you can find all of our social links to our YouTube channel, and all of our online store at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. And while you're there, check out the support tab. We would love to have you as a Patreon. If you listen to the Christian Nerds Unite podcast often, you know we love superheroes here. But we also know that our help only comes from God. So before you go, I do want to leave you with this blessing from Psalm 21. May the Lord answer you when you're in distress. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support from Zion. We'll see you next week. Blessings.